Welcome to the training log for the week of April 3rd, 2023. So first things first, I'm about a week and a half out from dislocating my shoulder, and it's going pretty well. I've taken a sling off for pretty much the whole time. I don't really wear it all. My arm has most of its mobility, call it 85-90%, with a few particular ranges having some pinching in the front, but no real substantial pain. It's still pretty weak, but otherwise very functional. I have follow-up with ortho next Friday, so hopefully we'll get some imaging done, see if there's any substantial soft tissue damage, but based on how it's feeling right now, I'm assuming there isn't. But training keeps plugging away, so I've been continuing to do work with the one arm not really being used for much. Right now it can help, for instance, load plates, so I can load my belt squat vertically now. I can carry around 45s, but I can't really do any serious lifting with it, but I can use it to help with some things. All things considered, I'm pretty optimistic and not too bothered by this injury. I knew that a serious injury was going to happen eventually because it's basically unavoidable when you're lifting the kind of weights I do. And I didn't really know exactly how I would end up handling it, but honestly, having had over a week now to think about it, it's just not that big a deal. It's a bit of a speed bump, it's a bit annoying, but I'm not stopping training. I'm not really doing anything super different than what I usually do anyways, so it's just, it is what it is. It's nothing to really get upset about. So in that vein, I did try doing deadlifts with my teeth on Tuesday. And this ended up being not so much a bite strength or teeth strength movement like I kind of thought it would be, and it really ended up being more limited by neck strength. But that might just be because the sensation on the neck is a lot more obvious than the sensation in the jaw. I worked up to 200 pounds, which was a lot more than I was really expecting. And then when I tried to jump to 225, it didn't. Just feeling like I couldn't bite down quite hard enough on the strap. So maybe with a proper bite implement, something like a mouth guard with an eye hook attached, I could do more, but we'll see. Moving on, we have some upper body stuff. I went back to the one arm barbell floor press, which I think is going to probably be my kind of focused compound pressing movement. I'll probably do it once or twice a week and just see if I can't push some numbers. It just kind of fills the niche of wanting to have something that's strength-based, kind of pressing compound to focus on, and I think it would be neat to build this up. If anything, it will increase some of the stability of my left shoulder, which was not nearly as good as my right shoulder when I was healthy, and it'll build up my left side, some of the anti-rotational, which again was not as quite as strong as my right. This movement is a lot easier for reps. For instance, I'm doing like 12 or 13 sets with the 115, but I could do like 2 reps with 135. So getting that low rep strength built up is something I'm gonna have to work on. Next, I used my new belt squat to do some one arm rows. Even if I wasn't injured, I think I'd be doing these. It's a really good way to do kind of heavy one armed rows, especially if I could brace myself on the safety bar with my other hand, which right now I probably could, but on the day I did this, it would have been a little more questionable. It's just a little bit easier to set up than say like a crock row with a dumbbell, or even where it's like a cable or something. And it just feels really good. Like it feels like the path of the belt squat lever is about in line with what you want for a row. And it's just easy to set up, it's easy to do. So I think even when everything's better, I'll probably keep doing these for my one-armed upward row movements. I also started working towards briefly incorporating some stuff on my right arm. The shoulder joint itself isn't really good for loads, but I found that with some careful work to immobilize that joint, I can work my arms. I'll bite a little bit lighter than I normally would. So here are some cable curls where I'm using that bench and my other arm to really lock the shoulder in place, making sure the only movement is at the elbow joint. And then because I'm using a lower weight, I also threw on the blood restriction bands, which are supposedly good for getting a bit more out of lower loads. Something about keeping the blood around the muscle gives a bit more stimulus for less load, which in this case would probably work really well. I don't know if I 100% buy it. I mean, there is some reasonable amount of anecdotal and scientific evidence saying it works, but it's one of those things that I wouldn't call a for sure thing, but I have them and it really doesn't hurt to use them, so why not? I applied the same principle to these cable extensions. I tried to do them with the bench, also cold mobilizing, but it just didn't work out, so I just settled for pressing the arm up against my body. Then for some lower body stuff, I got back to the belt squat and I did some squats. I did try them with the belt earlier in the week, but what I actually like more than the belt is this deadlift harness that I just picked up. It's supposed to be for doing armless deadlifts, but it snaps just fine onto the belt squat, and I feel like this works a bit more like a squat. When the load is braced around your hips, it's not really quite the same. You lose a lot of leverage at the bottom, and because I'm not afraid to load my lower back, The harness lets me use the belt squat in a much more efficient manner. But even more than squats, what I really like on the belt squat, especially with the harness, are these Bulgarian split squats. Now, these in general are one of my favorite free weight, semi-free weight leg exercises, even more than say like a squat. I mean, squats are great for building a squat, and I definitely prioritize having a strong squat, but when I want to work my quads specifically, I prefer these to just doing squats. So on the belt squat, I feel like they're even better because there's less effort putting into balance. So you just hop on, you just push until you cannot feel your legs anymore. One thing I always do with these is do a set number of reps and then do a hold at the bottom. That hold in between, say every 8 reps, go for like an 8 count. I probably went a bit fast in those ones, but still. That hold really just completely toasts your legs, and there's honestly no other exercise that leaves me more jello-y when I'm done. For instance, I'm about to finish up here, and you're going to see me unlatch and then just basically fall back onto the bench, and that happens every time I do these. And again, that belt squat is from Bells of Steel. Give them a look. They've been very cool and generous to me, so if there's anything you need and you think they might have it, just check them out. So this is what I mainly got that deadlift harness for. I wasn't going to stop doing heavy deadlifts just because I only have one functioning arm. So this harness lets me strap on and basically mimic pretty closely a regular deadlift. Now it is a bit harder because when you're not actually grabbing the bar and involving your arms, I feel like you lose out on an important kind of sensation that helps you really brace your torso. So the torso isn't quite as firm in place. You don't have as much bar control. It's a little bit more wobbly, and it's just all around not as easy. But I did manage to take this up to 815, which is not drastically lower than my regular conventional, and this wasn't a super hard rep. I didn't want to push it any harder because even though that brace is really good about getting the pressure off the shoulder area, when you have that much weight on your torso, some of it is going to bleed over, and I was just kind of starting to feel it. And as reckless as I will be, I'm not really interested in accidentally popping my shoulder out a second time. So that's about where I am this week. I'm really glad to find out that even with one arm, I can still deadlift over 800 pounds. And as always, I will see you all next week.